Welcome to the Know Yourself Revolution. My name is Grace Gravestock, and I'm excited to introduce you to Shannon Gill, who is a personal friend and colleague and sister in so many ways. Shannon is an evolutionary astrologer, and she is also the co-founder of the Shift Foundation, which is based in Austin. And we've been to a lot of events together and love the work that she and her partner are doing with astrology and the Shift Foundation in not just in Austin, but I mean, Shannon and Russell are active around the world. So thank you for being here, Shannon. What else did I miss? What else do you want to say about yourself?
Oh, thanks. You're doing great. I love it. Well, we love to dance, and I have deep roots in the ecstatic dance world. I founded the ecstatic dance movement in Colorado in 2004, 5, 6. And we integrate a lot of ceremony and embodiment into our events, into our retreats and our workshops. So I would say that that's an important part of our work, and an important part of the evolution and the revolution is, there's so much about ascension. And truly, I feel like it's really about harnessing and bringing the light down into the body. We really see ourselves as transceivers to receive and then transmit light through the body.
Absolutely. And so that is one of the things that Shannon and I talk about almost every time we talk, is because we're both we're both similar. And so we're going to look at Shannon's chart now. And the reason that we're going to look at the chart, the main reason, is so that you can see proof beyond a shadow of a doubt. You can see Shannon's chart, and you can see that she is leading by example, and she's living her design, and she's living on purpose. She's intentionally, I'll say it to you, Shannon, you've intentionally created a life you love based on the work that you want to do and that you're here to do. And I have nothing but admiration and respect for you and for the fact that you're doing it. And it's such a powerful example of for everyone. And my belief is, when we stand in our power, we do what we're here to be and do, we create space and hold space for other people to do the same. So again, I thank you for that. And before I jump into looking at your human design and point out a couple things, is there anything you want to say?
No, I'm just excited to be the one receiving the reading right here, even though if it's a couple of moments, because I'm usually in the other seat.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I love about you, Shannon, and I've said it before, is that you are a 6 line. And so that means that you're here to be a role model. And in our language, which is human design without jargon, you're called a mentor, and you're talented. And of course, people that know you know that you are, and you've always been that way. You've had these special talents. It basically means that most of the time you're here to be a role model. That's what that public role mentor means. And that 6 line means that you've had 3, or you just graduated into your 3rd phase. So 0 to 30, 30 to 50, and 50 plus. And that is the purpose of that, is so that in each phase, it's almost like 3 different lifetimes, you are gaining all kinds of valuable experiences for the purpose of being able to say, by the time now that you're 50, been there, done that. And you can advise just about anyone on anything, right?
Oh, goodness. Maybe. I mean, I always have had this sense that I've always felt like spirit sort of uses me as an example, and then I become a transmission for truth. And so I like the way that you frame that, but that definitely rings true.
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah. And so when you say transmission, that is certainly in your chart as well. So these top 2 chakras, in human design, there's 9 chakras. Each of them represent a certain pattern of energy. And you're either here to, if it's white, like Shannon's has 2, 4, 5 that are white and 4 that are colored. What that means, it's a great balance of both sending information, like you said earlier. The colored ones are what you're broadcasting, and the white ones are where you have receiving dishes. And so the top 2 being receiving dishes like that is usually means that you have the capacity to read minds. And the reason for that is because when you're talking to someone like me, for instance, who has the opposite configuration of you there, I can't help but broadcast, because my top 2 centers are broadcasting all the time. ears are open, so they're receiving. And so that's how, from a mechanical perspective, how you could literally read minds. And then, of course, the other ones, one of the ones I'll talk about on the far right is your emotional solar plexus, which means that you're technically an empath. So I know I talk a lot. I'm going to pause now and just say, what does that resonate with you? That do you see yourself as being able to kind of read minds or read people in that way?
I think so. I mean, I have always felt I have a gift with, I've seen it as empathy or just depth of understanding. And, I see through the surface of things. So if someone's saying words and they don't line up with the energy that I'm feeling from them, I might probe a little bit, like, okay, what else is going on? So that's probably what you're speaking of. And I think that, yeah, it definitely helps in my practice to be able to, I feel like there's a shape shifting that goes on. We create a shared field and I'm able to just feel into their experience. And of course I have my own map that I use, which is the astrology map, which I work with archetypes and they give me a lot of information. And then I'm able to just synthesize. And I think that a lot of it does come from an empathic or an intuitive place. So all these systems work really well together.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is, human design, and I call it your energy blueprint, but it is really made up of Eastern, Western, and Vedic astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah, quantum physics, and the Hindu Brahmin chakra system all rolled into one. It's kind of like Myers-Briggs meets astrology. And so I always love talking about this kind of stuff with you because you have such a amazing depth and breadth of knowledge when it comes to astrology. So there's definitely connection points. For instance, on this chart, we see the signs, the astrological signs, but I am not going to read them the same way you are. You're going to see the images and know what they mean, and I'm going to see the numbers and read them from that perspective. And they're both right. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is there's a lot of kind of, I'm going to say, cross-pollination. So you also have a ton of intuition, naturally in your chart. And gosh, there's a ton of things we could talk about, but I really want to save the time for you to tell your story. But really the point of showing your chart here is to show that you are leading by example. You're living your design. And so for you to be a role model, or in this case, we call it a mentor, as part of your public role is a big part of your purpose. Now, I want to back up and say your purpose, your number one purpose is to be yourself. And so you being Shannon Gill as that, however that, all the things that means is your number one purpose. But what does your purpose mean? I mean, there's a lot of pieces to it. So I used to think that, I'm here for an important thing. Maybe I'm supposed to be like the president of the United States or something, but it's not like that. Like there's so many purposes that we all have. And so when we look at our human design chart, or if Shannon does a reading for you and you look at your, and she's done a lot of readings for me to understand my astrology, you're going to find all these different archetypes, these patterns that you're here to either, in human design terms, either master or become wise about. And all of them are going to tell you about aspects of yourself. And so the last thing I want to say is just, gosh, because I could talk for a long time on this and I'm trying not to. I want to save the space for you. Your professional type is an express builder. I want to highlight that. You and I share that. What that means is you're kind of like a time bender. You get a whole lot of stuff done. And people always look at you and say, oh my gosh, Shannon, how do you do it? And they probably get tired just hearing about your days. And so I'm going to pause and ask you, does that resonate? And then I'm going to give you a summary version of your grand purpose before we listen to your story. Does that resonate so far?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and when I hear your languaging, my mind is automatically correlating it to the archetype in the astrology chart. So I'm thinking, of course, we're both Virgos, right? We're master of details. And, we're like grandmother spider weaving the strand, and every web should be created just so to create the masterpiece. So absolutely. And I just love it. And I love I'm really kind of seeing the chart through different eyes today for some reason. It just feels like very Aquarian in the sense that it's our inner technology, right? It's like the circuitry, the inner architecture, like even the diagram itself is like, wow, it's almost like a key that if you meditated upon could help to activate and to integrate and to synthesize all the parts. because I assume that the colors mean something, because I actually don't know, but like in our school of consciousness, you know, we work with color and vibration and number. And this is very much about this new time we're coming into. It's this time of the intersection of all the parts and all the pieces. So I'm kind of seeing myself as this like rocket ship. And, you know, if I can align with my design, right, then I can just sort of like be the best and have my own personal revolution and plug into this more collective one that we're at the threshold of.
Absolutely. Yes. All of that. It is true. And so just to respond to that, we all have the highest expression and the lowest expression and everything in between, and we get to choose. So we are locked into our design in the sense that, you know, this doesn't change. Your chart does not change over the course of your lifetime, but what does change is how you live it. So choosing to live the higher expression or lower expression, you know, obviously every day we have a choice. So let me just share with you the summary version of your grand purpose, Shannon. I think you'll love this. Mm-hmm. And so for all of you watching, if you're new to this, you know, these 4 codes, these numbers under grand purpose, and for Shannon, the traditional language would call you a left angle cross of dominion. In quantum language, that would be the left angle cross of co-creation. So it's so interesting to say that, to read that and think of all the work that you do, you know, with Russell and with others. So we co-create on so many levels. So here's what you're here for, according to, you know, the quantum human design perspective: to lead, teach, and inspire others to maintain and sustain a countenance and aura of curiosity and wonder. To know that curiosity and wonder are key components of creating receptivity to cosmically inclusive thinking. To teach the importance of healing self-worth and aligning with the value of sustainable well-being as the key to being receptive to new ideas and information that have the potential to change the world. Wow. Understanding that the power of co-creation comes from knowing your unique, vital, and irreplaceable role in the cosmic plan, and to be able to create in harmony with intelligence when you serve your higher purpose. So, wow, that is so aligned with what you just said earlier. But I'll ask you, Shannon, is there anything that you want to say in response to that, how that resonates with you?
I mean, I'm totally activated in hearing that. And I think that's the first time I've ever heard that. And so I would love to have that written out and printed on my altar. Absolutely. Beautiful languaging to describe how I experience myself as a vessel of consciousness. The more my own evolution has progressed, it's tapping into more of a experience of being the universe, the universal energies just flowing through. And, you know, it's I won't be able to reflect the words exactly, but what I heard was that I am here to help people find alignment and to actually activate them to go beyond. And that's the wonder, right, of remembering, waking up out of the dark ages, that actually not only are we not separate, but that we are at 100% the divine code experiencing itself. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Sorry.
I love it.
My partner just walked in and he kind of like interrupted my thought flow, but I'll come back to it. I am in a partnership and with my twin flame, and we are do so much of this work together. And so you may or may not know Russell Olhausen, but that was him there for a moment.
And that's perfectly, you know, co-creation is the part of is in your grand purpose. So that fits very well with all the things that you've said about, you know, how you're meant to co-create together in the school. And, you know, we'll talk about that. So thank you, Shannon. Thank you for leading by example. Thank you for living your purpose and doing what you're here to be and do, because when you are doing what you're here to be and do, that create space for others to do the same and to be and do what they're here to be and do. So today we're talking about the Aquarian Exposition, and the question that I asked you before is, are we there yet? And when we talked about this at the eclipse, I was a little disappointed because I thought, wow, hundreds of years, like maybe it's not going to happen in my lifetime. So we really want to hear your story of how you came to do this amazing purpose work. You are a perfect example of a successful entrepreneur who's living your purpose and doing your purpose work and enjoying your life and creating it intentionally. So there's a lot of things here to talk about. so I want to hear your story, and also want you to be able to answer this question. Are we there yet? And I know you've got more to say about that. So why don't we just start with your story, and then we'll talk a little bit more. That will lead us into the question about, are we there yet? How's that?
That sounds great. And thank you so much for the beautiful and generous reflections. It's always feels so nice to be seen, and right back at you for doing this profound work on the planet, sister. My story, so it's fascinating, just even in the question, because I feel like my own evolution has come to a place where I have wanted to evolve past my story in a lot of ways. And okay, now my daughter's walking in. Hello, I'm on a live, so if you could just, that's okay. No one's supposed to be home today, but this is my life. I'm also a mother, and that's Victoria, my queen. She's supposed to be with her dad this weekend. Yeah, so yeah, I would say that my life story has been an initiation into the awakening that I am now living, that you see now, and all the ways that I've evolved into the expression of my particular gifts. And that has been a very scorpionic journey for me. And so for those of you that maybe don't know that terminology, or, translate reality the way that I do in archetypes, this is basically the archetype that represents the underworld. And the underworld meaning sort of the darker, more shadowy, difficult, challenging, traumatic experiences of life that we all have. And that I was sort of cast into initiatory processes, even in the womb, actually. And so, yeah, my father came out of the closet whenever my mother was pregnant with me. So she was put into a place of trauma and shock, that he was gay. And then I had a pretty intense labor with my mother, and she almost didn't make it. And I was separated from her at birth. So I would say those are two sort of imprints, is the way that I see them, as imprints to the nervous system, and sort of like the sort of initiatory into some of the necessary processes that would unfold later, which is healing, right? And then, I don't need to go through all of the journey specifically, but I will say that, I lost my dad of AIDS when I was 14, and I was witness, which is an important age. 14 is your Saturn opposition. It's probably something in human design as well. I witnessed his whole community basically pass away. So, in the 80s and the AIDS epidemic. So that was quite something to witness. And then pretty much as he was crossing over, he, long story, but was sort of manipulated by a family member that ended up embezzling my trust fund. So I was sort of dealing with the loss of my father, and then whisked away by this part of my family that really was portraying to want to have me close and take care of me, but they actually just wanted my money. And so that was a period of trauma when that came to light. So it's been a period of, it's been a lifetime of a lot of loss and trauma, and a lot of betrayal issues, which is also scorpionic. So fast forwarding a bit, whenever sort of everything came to light, and all the things were revealed around these family members not actually having my back, and my, there's more that I don't think is necessary to go into. What I started to learn was that there was an intricate connection to these quote unquote darker experiences, and this particular the shock that comes from such, that was flipping on switches to my awakening. And so it was almost like the more times that I hit the bottom, and this was a period of, even high school and my adolescence was very rough with being lost soul, partying and getting in trouble. And because I had no one, like my family, the family thing had kind of fallen apart. And until I started finally getting basically downloads of new consciousness. And I had to figure out how to survive a lot of the darkness, which set me on my path of healing, which set me on my path to understanding what was happening. And a lot of magic started unfolding, and it set me into my journey of learning about. Actually, my first path in my education was to learn about why is it that I cry when I'm dancing? Why is it that music makes me cry? I was having this direct experience about healing through vibration and movement. So I went to college after 7 different attempts at different colleges at Incarnate Word, and studied music therapy. And so music therapy was actually my doorway in to my education, which then took me to Boulder to Naropa, which is where I ended up getting a degree in Buddhism and Buddhist psychology, because I was needing to learn about the nature of my mind and consciousness, and to get myself out of some of these darker loops. And really that was pivotal for me those years, because I started to separate my experience, my story, my mind from who I really was. And who I really was is infinite, and who we really are is fractals of source, of God, creating and experiencing itself. So, even though I'm an astrologer, I would say that my practice is very heavily laced with Buddhist psychology and understanding. And I think it's extremely helpful to see through the eyes of illusion on some level. And then that took me, and then I got my degree in dance, music, and art therapy. And then I went to the Archetypal Academy because I had my first astrology reading, which pretty much changed everything for me. But I'll pause in case you just wanted to, if you wanted to. I couldn't tell if you were, because I can't see you. So
Sure. Yeah. No, I didn't want to interrupt you. That's so fascinating, Shannon. And it's, every time we talk, I learn something new from you and about your story, and how more fully you really embody that role model energy, because you've truly been through a lot. And like, I might have said earlier, once you hit 50, you've been there, done that. You've had at least 3 different lifetimes. And it really sounds like, as you tell your story, I can really see that, 0 to 30, 30 to 50, and 50 plus is, now that you've just turned 50, you have this whole, 3rd lifetime to go, which is a whole new chapter, right? And it's maybe a whole new book. And I want to respond just briefly. I didn't realize, or maybe I knew and I forgot, that you had that chapter with your dad. My ex-husband was similar. There was a similar pattern there that I don't remember knowing that about you. So it's funny because we've become friends. I think we met maybe 6 years ago when I was first starting my human design journey, and we met at a psychic fair, and we had booths next to each other. And so it's just been really fun to get to know you over the years. And we have a lot of friends in common, and a lot of things that we do together in Austin. And so I'm really grateful to get to know you on all these different levels. And so every time I hear you tell your story, I learn something new. And so I just want to honor you for going through so many things. I want to say on behalf of the collective, I mean, and you can talk more about this intelligently than I can, but this is just my sense of it, is when you're going through and you're healing, this trauma and all these things in your family tree, you're doing it not just for you, but you're doing it for, well, anyway, let me ask you, how would you explain that? You could probably have a better way of saying it than I do.
Sorry, can you reframe the question of all the things that I've gone through and how that relates to the collective?
Yeah. Like when you heal. Yeah. So I think we talked before about when you do healing on your own, you work on yourself, you do healing work or whatever. When you do that, my understanding is you're not just healing yourself, you're healing on multiple timelines. You're healing for your ancestors, you're healing. I mean, I guess there's a lot of ways to look at it, but is there anything more you'd want to add about when we do the work on ourselves, like what the impact is beyond us?
Absolutely. This is a lot about the core of our work and about this massive shift into the age of Aquarius. We are coming out of, the ages are 2,000 years long. We're at this, monumental moment at the cusp between the ages. The age of Pisces that is ending was all about this illusion of separation. Pisces is the fish that are swimming in opposite directions. And so we're coming out of this time of being asleep as a humanity for a very, very long time. With a program that we're powerless, that we need to be controlled by the outside forces, whether it be the government or the church or the doctor. And so this arrival into this new age of Aquarius is the consciousness of understanding that we're all one organism. So I call this organismic consciousness. And so what you're stating is absolutely true, that we are connected as one energetic whole to everything in the universe. That's why I say, like, I've sort of evolved to a place where I don't necessarily align with my story much anymore. I feel like our stories are sort of a construct of energy that is put in motion before we come into form to wake us up, but not to be defined by your story. And that's also part of coming out of the Aquarian age, where we're coming out of water, coming out of Pisces age, which is water, which is a lot of unconscious emotions and being sort of like driven by a lot of that. And so we're coming into Aquarius, which is air, which is enlightenment. And when the lights go on in this new age, where we return to the one mind, to the Purusha, which is the organismic consciousness, then we realize, like, we're not our story at all. Actually, we're the divine sparks. We're the fractals of God. And yes, we have had a journey and it served our awakening, but I feel like we're being called into this new time where we constellate more from our divinity, which is so much different than our human story. And that's really, being at the cusp of these ages where there's a lot of intensity, there's a lot of perceived unknown. We're also straddling the dimensional states. And so that's also what's very exciting. In the third dimensional state, we're all very identified with our story and our ego and what makes us, what makes us different. And while there's truth in that, because we do live in a dual existence, there's also another side to that, and that's Aquarius, which is like us working together as this sacred organism. So the work that we do on ourselves basically feeds or infiltrates the neural network, the grid, the energetic connective tissues between all of us, the architecture of the new earth. And because of the fact that we know that there's really nothing outside of us, because there's really only one mind, that we are actually the universe, the faster we can start to experience ourselves and orient ourselves as the universe creating and experiencing itself, the faster we're going to see the new world. So if we know that we're coming out of this age of duality, this age of this perceived separation, we work on unifying within, whether it's the masculine, the feminine energies, or the light and the dark. And then the next level of the work becomes with partners. And so I do a lot of work around sacred relationship as well, because, once we're in syzygy within, then finding syzygy union with a partner is a way to work alchemically to amplify, create a toroidal field that penetrates the field even more dramatically. And that's a lot of the work that Russell and I do.
Yeah, and I think that's really fascinating. I just want to respond to what you said just a minute ago. So the way that I see the identity and the story that we have come from, the value, the biggest value to me in all of that, and it includes looking at your human design, looking at your astrology or whatever, is to understand, like, there's a part of us, or I'll say maybe people like me as Virgos, I don't know, but people that want to have want to ask why all the time. Why did this happen? Why did my ex-husband do this? Why did I have to go through this pattern of pain over and over and over? And so when I think my story, when I went through all that and I found human design, it was like, oh, I see. The purpose of that was so that I could grow, so that I could see that life is happening for me, not to me. The fact that happened wasn't actually me being a victim. It was happening so that I could stand in my power, because my purpose is to empower others and to be an expert in power. But I'm not here as a power player, like trying to be all powerful, but it's about empowerment and helping people to stand in their power. And I wouldn't have such an insider's view on that if I hadn't given my power away for so many years and been, rolled over so many times. I mean, it's just, so all of that to say, I agree with you about the story and how we're letting go of the old stories and we're embracing a new identity. We're embracing a new time, and all of that is really important. And looking at what I call our blueprint or our astrology or whatever, like that really can help us understand the whys around a lot of that. And I mean, I understand a lot more about my own story from the readings that you've given me, for instance. And so whether it's human design or astrology or Myers-Briggs or something else, like, I'm not partial. I just think that what I want is, in the Know Yourself Revolution, the vision is when people are leading from their heart, and they're doing what their heart is telling them, and they're listening to their own inner guidance system, they're no longer being controlled, to respond to your point earlier. And that is the end vision that I have and where I see this going. So we talked briefly earlier about this Aquarian Exposition, and I've asked you, like, are we there yet? Like, when are we going to get there? What is this golden age, and what is the time, like, what is the significance of this time? And so, just for our viewers to know, like, one of the reasons why we're talking right now today on January 11th, 2024, is because we're about to kick off our Know Yourself Revolution Summit on the 20th. And that was informed by the information that you shared with us in one of your events, Shannon, you and Russell, when you talked about the significant energetic shift that's happening this month. So could you talk a little bit more about what's happening in the short term, and then of course the bigger picture about where we're going?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with the bigger picture and then I like to do the wider brushstroke and then bring into the micro. Better. Because I think that in order for us to understand the moment, we need to put it into perspective of the larger journey. So I spoke briefly already about this. We're standing at this magnificent moment at the cusp between the two ages. And typically when one age ends and another age is born, it's a complete end of an era. The ages characterize the collective consciousness of that period, which is 2,150 years long. So you can imagine for just a moment, that this is monumental. It's almost inconceivable to understand how significant this is. Looking back, 100 generations of our ancestors haven't stood where we stand today. So this is why everything is so chaotic on the planet, because typically we evolve just like nature, right? Through these cycles of death and rebirth. So humanity is going through this sort of dark night of the soul with a death of what has been. This, what is dying is that age of darkness, this illusion of separation, where, there's massive imbalance on the planet, and we were living in a time of a hierarchical pyramid structure where it was not life affirming, life sustaining. There was a lot of imbalance between the masculine and the feminine energies. And so this is the time where this is all collapsing. And the question has come up, several times, are we there yet? I think it's really important Russell and I like to joke, like, this is all a memory, right? Time is nonlinear. So the answer is yes, we are there yet. And no, we're not there yet. No.
Could you just briefly talk about I mean, I know what you're saying with that, but I think there are a lot of people that would be like, wait a second. Did you just say time is not linear? Could you just explain that real quick?
Right. So I guess part of my own evolutionary journey has tapped me into experiences that have confirmed things that we might see in like movies. Which is where there's intersecting timelines where, you can be, most people have had like a deja vu experience. It's kind of started out like that. That's sort of some little smaller experiences of what I'm talking about. But in my own journey with Russell, we have experienced our past lives, and then we also experience the future. And what we understand is that there can be intersections of experiences happening all at once. And a lot of this has also come from my education with different light workers and healers, and then also when we have direct experience of people that have crossed over that are still here with us, that are not, death is an illusion. So these are the types of experiences that have given me a direct experience of understanding nonlinear reality. So
Shannon, sorry to interrupt you again. I just have to say, I know there are people that are listening that are going to be like, wait, what? So there's a lot of information here when you talk to somebody like Shannon that has this very advanced knowledge that's not as widely available or widely readily understood. And so I want to just highlight something here. Making change fun and easy is my thing, professionally. And so one of the keys to that is being open to new ways of living, working, and being. And so I have to put this in here because I know that when I first met you, Shannon, I was in a different place, and I did not understand like a lot of the stuff that you talk about. It was like way over my head, and it didn't frankly fit into my belief system at the time. And so I've since evolved, I'll say. I've shifted, you know, the way I look at the world is different. And I also see how in order to make these big shifts in our lives, like when life happens for us, not to us, big things, like you go through all these big life changes, it benefits you to start being open to considering that the world might work differently than what you were taught. And so I just have to say that as a caveat to a lot of the things that you're saying, because they're going to sound really heretical to a lot of people. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I feel like it's really important to just say that as a foundation, because it is a little bit heretical for a lot of people, what you're saying.
I understand.
But it's important.
Yeah, I understand that. And as you have, you know, reflected several times, my role as a mentor or a guide. And so perhaps, you know, all those dark nights of the soul that I had, like I said, there was a direct connection to the suffering and to the pain and the loss and the darkness that shocked my awareness or my consciousness to these higher levels of direct experience. And I'm speaking from direct experience. I'm not speaking about anything dogmatic that I've read in a book. And also to say that things are speeding up. So that's also one of the premises of the Aquarian age, is that we're going from the water and the unconscious emotional realm to an air sign, which is the mind, which is very fast. It's the higher mind. If you can see, like, look just back at 2020 to where we are now and look at what's happening with AI. Technology is ruled by Aquarius. You can see it's dramatic, right? All the things that have come online and all of the things, all the changes. And also I want to address something that you have pointed to a couple of times about, you know, when difficult things happen to us, and you frame it, I love the way you frame it, that it's not happening to us, it's happening for us. It's really, really important, I feel like, to have that frame of reference to understand that, because like I always joke with my clients, how often is it that we wake up in the morning and be like, hey, it's a great day to heal, let's evolve today, right? Like, never. You know, primarily when we're comfortable, we sort of stay status quo. And so it's the shock often, you know, or it's suffering, or it's a loss, or something dramatic that happens that wakes us up, that throws us into the dark night of the soul journey, into the underworld, where we're derobed. It's like we become naked to the truth, and it's very existential, and it rips through all of the illusions. It's the death of the ego, which is necessary. It's a necessary process in the spiritual awakening, where we're stripping off the mask, the facade, you know, the clothes that we're wearing in a lot of ways. And humanity is going through this right now as we cross through this bridge, this birth canal from the old age to the age of darkness, which again, where our faculties have been asleep. So if there's some of the listeners that are saying, well, I haven't had an experience like that, or I don't know if I believe that, it's okay, because as a humanity, we really haven't. We have been under a consciousness and a program that the magic and the divinity was outside of us, that God was somewhere out there, and that we needed to be subservient. And that was actually a lot of indoctrination and a lot of inaccurate information, and a lot of deliberate keeping of some of these magical tools away from us, because we weren't going to be so easily controlled if we knew we had access to direct knowledge, which is what the stars are, which is why this is astrology. This astrology at one point was a part of everyone's life until it went underground during the Dark Ages. So while we see things rising on the planet, this is definitely the prophesized time of the revelations, the apocalypse, but it's really important to understand how to hold that this is something to celebrate, because what is being revealed is the truth of us and our infinite nature, our infinite creative powers, the divinity that is inherent in our cells and in our mind, our body, and our spirits. And that what is being revealed in the way of darkness was all there all along. It was just more covert. So now everything's on the surface, and talking about all the corruption with the system, the patriarchal, you know, subjugation of the feminine principles over for the masculine. And so we need that to collapse, so that we can evolve into this new awareness of ourselves as an organism, as all sacred beings, and so that we can create this new earth paradigm.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Shannon. It is kind of heretical for a lot of people to think about the possibility that, oh my gosh, could we have been lied to all these years? Like, what if the world doesn't work the way we were taught? And I guess we're here to say, if you're still listening and you're still watching, then you must be open to this perspective. But it makes a whole lot more sense to me, honestly. It makes things fit together better. So I think it's just it's valuable to just talk about the elephant in the room briefly. And so I want you to talk about your Aquarian Age webinar in just a minute, but just to close the loop on your story, Shannon, you are an amazing mentor, and you are an amazing role model for living as the way I see it, as a successful entrepreneur who's living your purpose and doing work that you find satisfying, that you find meaningful and lucrative. So as we think about that, we know a lot of our listeners are losing their jobs because of AI or technology or whatever. The world is shifting, right? And so this is just part of the shift. But as that happens, it becomes more and more important for people to look around and see that there are people prospering. There are people living their purpose, creating intentionally a life they love, and you're doing that. So could you just close the loop on your story, which I know there's a lot more to it, but you talked about a lot of the challenges that you went through earlier in your life. How did you get from that place to how did you know that astrology was the thing that was a part of your purpose, and how you were, what your focus should be?
I had my first professional astrology reading on my 30th birthday by the founder of the school that I ended up enrolling in, the Archetypal Academy, which is where I learned about alchemy and became a Jungian counselor. And I was introduced to astrology through that doorway. But it was that particular reading and he was an Aquarius, and his wife is also an Aquarius, both born on the same day at the same birthday, that founded this magical school in Boulder. But I never so basically when I had dabbled in astrology, growing up, being sort of curious, spiritually awake to some degree, and people would look at my chart and gasp, because I have 5 planets in the 8th house, and the 8th house is the house of Scorpio, which is the underworld, all about death and intensity, and so it's worried me. It scared me. I had this fear about myself and my life. And so when I went for this professional reading, he looked and he said, "Wow, you have access to so much power." And he said, "You're going to be an incredible guide for people in the alchemical way," working basically exactly what I do right now, to take people into the underworld and be their guide, and help them to understand that it's a natural part of life, that actually that's where we get our spiritual tools. These are initiations, that we don't get the keys to the garden, metaphorically, to the higher realms of consciousness before we are prepared for them, before we're ready for them, before we have found alignment with our true self, which is our divinity within. And so it's like a chiseling. It's like a sculpture that has to happen. And so that reading changed my life forever. And I knew that day.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to point out it was on your 30th birthday. That is exactly aligned with your human design, 0 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 plus. So it literally initiated you into your second phase of life, which was focused on astrology, it sounds like. Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. It's true. So that was right then. And, in deeper ways, I feel like I've been doing this work for lifetimes. It's sort of like the more that I removed those obstacles and sort of cleaned up my vessel, because during those dark times, I wasn't taking care of myself, and I was depressed, and I was on antidepressants as an adolescent, and partying with, putting toxins in my body. So it put me on a path to healing. And as I started learning the connection between the body, the vessel, and the consciousness, which then the dance came. And then I started having these peak experiences, and my Kundalini started waking up. And then fast forward, I always joke and say collided with my twin flame, Russell. And that took me to a whole nother level of my work as being in union with my sacred partner, my beloved. And we just started getting direct guidance about sort of just demystifying some of these ancient understandings. You know, these are in our DNA and our inheritance back to like Egyptian times, and even beyond that, like Lemurian times. Or, you know, I'm getting a little out there. And so I just, as I had already had my degree in Buddhist psychology and I was already a counselor, I really realized that astrology was such an accelerated doorway into the soul, because everything is right there. It's your soul's blueprint. It's your map. And that became my primary practice now for over 10 years. But I work therapeutically. Because I have a background in psychology and therapy, it's not me telling you who you are or anything like that. It's more inviting. I feel like I'm sort of like a mirror, a conjugate mirror, to reflect you back to yourself. And sometimes I may flip on a few switches that are dormant, and help the lights to really come on and to really own that the true essence and the fullest expression of the soul, the spirit. And I feel like that's where we're at. You know, you spoke like, if we're not, there's something really important about the heart chakra right now, because Aquarius is the higher mind. So there's something about not getting caught in the emotions, not getting caught in the story. And I also want to just make a little amendment to my saying that I put the story over here. The story is important. There's value in the story, and it's part of the evolutionary process. But at some point, you evolve into a different place where it doesn't define you, and you can be grateful for it, but it's not something that you really are attached to anymore. Mm-hmm. And then we start working more energetically as like archetypes and as co-creators with the divine, and so back to the heart piece. Aquarius is on the same axis as Leo. So as opposed to seeing 12 signs, there's 12 signs in the zodiac. It's more optimal to consider that there's 6 axes of polarity. So there are 2 sides to the same coin, and the polarity point to Aquarius, which is the higher mind consciousness, is Leo, which rules the heart. And while we're moving into this new age of Aquarius, it's about us becoming one organism. But the way that we do that effectively is by having the fullness of our own individual heart sparked. Leo is ruled by the sun. So each of us has to activate our own light fully, which is our inherent in our design, which is in our charts. And when everybody is fully activated, then it's like we all come together like a puzzle, and it's organic, and every system of our world will be transformed naturally and organically and fully. So I just want to acknowledge what you were saying. It is extremely important, that piece.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I know we're running out of time. Thank you for sharing your story. We've put the link below about your Aquarian Age webinar. We have 2 versions. It's the same thing, but not everybody knows you don't have to put HTTPS. So that's why we've got both versions there. KYR, that's knowyourselfrevolution.life/Aquarian Age. If you want to get Shannon's Aquarian Age webinar, where Shannon, I know you go a lot more into detail in answering this question. Is there anything else you want to say about it?
No, I think it's fun. You know, I think that we're trying to demystify. I mean, humanity has never lived in the Aquarian Age before. So we're the pioneers, and astrology gives us codes and keys to help us on our path. And so I suggest, you know, if you're on the path to awakening and kind of wondering where we're going and what's next, that you might get some valuable keys in this. It's just a little 45-minute fun little journey.
I will. Okay. I'm going to do that right now. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for putting that together. That is, so if you want to know more, there's a lot more depth there that Shannon has prepared. And I want to say one other thing. So we are partners with Shannon Russell to help promote their Total Eclipse of the Heart in-person eclipse viewing event. It's going to be near Austin in April, the 5th through the 8th. And this is going to be an amazing event. And I know we're really out of time, but Shannon, do you want to say anything else about it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm okay. I got 5 more minutes, but you know, as far as an evolutionary astrologer, our focus is very much on the eclipses. Eclipse season happens twice a year, and it's the major turning points in evolution. So if we think back about this previous eclipse cycle, which was October and November, we were together. That's when the war broke out and the attacks in Israel. And so the eclipses are in the axis of Aries Libra, which is the axis of war and peace. And essentially what happens during eclipses is whatever energy is present in the collective field will be amplified and accelerated. And so when we found out that this eclipse was literally right on top of us here in Texas, we realized, like, wow, we have an opportunity to be very intentional, to curate a portal of energy, a field of energy, bringing the community together with a shared dream of hope, of peace and love and unity, and to work on an energetic and vibrational level to amplify these energies. So it'll be a combination of, you know, embodiment and singing and dancing, and then we'll have some really high vibe, really important information shared about from intellects and from experts in the realm of spiritual nutrition and working with the vessel around how to purify and be ready for these big changes. We have a Tibetan monk coming, which is such an honor. This will be a ceremony from doorway in to doorway out. And so this monk will be offering actually Tibetan tattoos based on your birthday, doing live Tonka painting. It's just going to be an incredible 4 days. And so we really want to invite everybody to be a part of something historic and to realize that this awakening and this Aquarian time is really so much about, you know, freedom, autonomy, and sovereignty, and awakening out of this illusion of separation. And that what does that really mean is that we're all powerful, and that we actually, when in alignment with the highest and with source, we can shift the tides. And this really does feel like a time on the planet that we're needing to tip the scales from a lot of the destruction, a lot of the darkness, and really move into these new realms of creating this more beautiful and harmonious existence for everyone. So I hope that you'll consider joining.
Yes, it's going to be fantastic. We're excited to be there with you, Shannon. Thank you for creating it. I know you and Russell are the mastermind behind it, but we expect hundreds of thousands of people, right, to come into the area, to the Wimberley area for this big event. It's going to be epic. So be sure to get your ticket. And whoops, I took the wrong one off. Here it is. Yeah. So if you want to get a ticket to that, you would probably want to start making your travel plans as well. So it's a 4-day event, or potentially just the weekend, or you could be there a little bit longer. But yeah, check it out if that resonates with you. It's going to be amazing. And we'd love to see you there. You get a chance to see both of us and all of our friends probably there. It's going to be an amazing.
Can I say one last thing?
Sure.
Can I say one last thing? Because I want to just, you know, we mentioned it. So January 20th, when you're launching your program, very, very important day, because it's the day that Pluto and the sun enter Aquarius together. And so Pluto is the last of the outer planets to enter Aquarius. So as far as the big question, are we there yet? Everybody is pretty much in agreement that this really signifies the true beginning. We've been in this, you know, the death and the birth at the same time. You can feel the revolt, but you can feel the old hanging on. This really feels like we have arrived. And so expect everything to speed up, expect all the seeds of the gifts and the dreams that you've been planting to really take root, you know, and all we have to do is stay in alignment with truth and integrity and work on our frequency level, doing the things that make us happy, bring us joy, staying in connection with our heart, and remembering that we're all one human family doing this as an organism. So thank you all for doing this work and bringing this forth on this powerful time, because I know it's going to be a great success.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Yeah, appreciate your support. And I think it's important what you just said, those things to keep our frequency high. Together, we can positively impact 5 billion people by 2025 through the Know Yourself Revolution. So get your ticket. If you haven't already, it's free, knowyourselfrevolution.com to enroll. There are some VIP upgrades that are pretty amazing. So check those out, and be sure to get Shannon's Aquarian Age webinar if you're interested in going deeper with this. I think gosh, I feel like I'm missing something, but thank you so much for sharing all this amazing information, Shannon. I think that it's great to know what's coming, and it's important to know why it matters and what the big picture is. And you've certainly helped us to get that bigger picture about the Aquarian Exposition. Are we there yet? And you've also shared your life journey and how you became a successful entrepreneur living your purpose, and how that kind of maps to your energy blueprint. So that's amazing. I think I only say that to say, for people who don't know that that's even possible, that you can, there are so many clues, you know, in your human design or in your astrology or whatever resonates with you, that it's amazing to know, because it's very validating. And so I always say that our work really just gives people permission to be who they are. And I suspect you say something similar. So Shannon's work is amazing. If you're interested in getting an astrology reading, check her out on her, we're streaming this to multiple platforms right now. Maybe you're on her YouTube channel or her Instagram channel, or if you're interested in doing a live Q&A with her during the summit, then please reach out on whatever platform you're watching on, and we will see if we can work with Shannon's schedule and get that arranged. So, and you'll get the updates on that if you become VIP. So be sure to upgrade to VIP so you can get all those get all the notifications for the live Q&As with some of the speakers. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for being a part of it, Shannon. We'll definitely be talking again. And we'll talk again as your event gets closer to talk more details about that next time. So
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.